Good afternoon, Mr. Ihejirika. I am Ryaen La Rose from Suriname Herald and Rasonic TV. We're going to talk about active project from Afreximbank that will be held in Grenada next month. What can you tell us about this project?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for coming. And the Afro-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum, ACTIVE for short, is a program that the bank has created to try and unite Africa and the Caribbean economically through creating a platform where investment, trade, and cultural exchange discussions can happen. The event was created in 2022 actually, with the first edition in Barbados, and subsequent editions have taken place in Guyana, and last year was done together with our annual meeting in Nassau, Bahamas. Each edition has proven to be a huge success because people realize that this is an interesting area whose time has come. So people have come in drones. We had record attendance of not less than 1,000 people who are visiting the event, and deals are signed and partnerships also have been formed. So for us, it's serving the purpose very well to create a bond between Africa and the Caribbean.
And what will be the focus this year in the get together?
So the focus of this is to try and create a partnership, especially at a time of global economic turbulence. You know what is happening on the geopolitical space, where political alignments are realignments are taking place. So we want to seize that opportunity to forge a stronger partnership between Africa and the Caribbean, just in line with what we are already doing. And that's the central focus on this, to deepen the conversations and the gains from the previous editions, and then to also move forward the conversations that we're having towards having a stronger and more economically stronger Africa-Caribbean partnership.
If we're talking about working together and building a stronger relationship with each other, now the region is talking about climate change. How does Afreximbank look at the changes that are following with climate change in the region?
So it is a very important area. So we believe strongly that countries within Africa and the Caribbean need to, in line with what is happening in the rest of the world, also join in the, in the race to transition to greener and more climate-friendly energy and all the rest. So we're working very much to ensure that we are not left behind. The bank has created a fund which specifically seeks to support the development of projects in this space. And the idea is to make sure that the countries are not left behind, like I said, and that projects on the green and climate space are specifically targeted for financing. And then it's a gradual process where we now make that transition smooth, so that we wouldn't get to a point where the rest of the world has moved forward and then we're still lagging behind.
If we're talking about Suriname, Suriname is working to give and make a market for agriculture in the region to facilitate this in the Caribbean, and we also export to Barbados and Bahamas. What are the possibilities for little countries in the Caribbean to export to African countries?
The value this brings is that if you realize about the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, you know that through that mechanism, we're trying to create a 1.2 billion people market, which is what Africa represents. And when it's infused up with the Caribbean, then you form a stronger force. And you are absolutely right in referencing food security. This is an area that the region, both regions, desperately need to create some level of sustainability on, so that in the event of global shock, we wouldn't be able to rely on other countries to make things happen. We can instill some kind of self-sufficiency in our ability to be able to feed ourselves and also meet our needs. And the best way we can do it is to create some specialization and areas where people can focus on their areas of competence to produce food, and also create the logistic support that will make it easy for food once produced in an area to freely move around within Africa and the Caribbean. So together, once the markets open up, we will now have a stronger market, we will now have sustainability and create room for specialization so that Suriname can focus on producing goods where they have comparative advantage over, while other countries can focus on the ones that they can produce. But through effective logistics, we can also facilitate some kind of efficiency in terms of exchange of these goods among ourselves.
How can countries in the region work together with Afrmex about working together and getting funds for doing projects in agriculture, in safety, in health, and in industry? How do countries can contribute or get funds to do the projects that needs to be done in the community?
Yeah, it's important that this is actually why Afreximbank is created, to create a level of capacity for our people to be able to do things that otherwise they wouldn't have been able to do on their own. So we want to support not just the primary production of agricultural products, but some kind of value-added export within the agricultural value chain. Some small processing centers where these goods are packaged effectively, because once they are packaged, then effectively it can also enhance possibility for easy export, because raw form commodities are always difficult to move around, So we want to create room not just for primary production, but for agro-processing. And we've created those kind of capacity in a few of the African countries, like in Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, where cocoa used to be exported in raw beans form. We've been able to create some kind of production where they are now transformed into cocoa butter, from where they are now exported at a more convenient space. So this is what we can also bring to countries within the region here, so that we target primary production. That's very important. But above that, also support the value-added export of this the output that comes from the production phase.
When we're talking about working together, Caribbean and the African continent, do you think that we can exploit the working relations to build, to not relate on only on the West, but to relate on just the Caribbean and Africa?
That is what we hope should happen, right? So unfortunately, in spite of the very strong ties that these two regions have, culturally and historically, we've been so much kept apart among ourselves. So it's a good time that this is happening, that now we are coming together. We're now having forums like Active, where we can discuss and take charge of our own future together. And the truth of the matter is that once we concretize this bond, we make ourselves a force to reckon with in the global space. We now become a force to reckon with, and a force to be consulted whenever decisions globally are made. And I'll give you an example. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the demand for vaccines for Africa and the Caribbean was lumped up together. And because it was lumped up, we were able to get a critical mass that enabled us to sit down with the vaccine manufacturers, negotiate discounts, and then the bank put down a $2 billion guarantee that facilitated not just the delivery of the vaccine, but an on-time delivery with the rest of the world. So these are the kind of things that we are able to achieve once we have that habit among ourselves, to look at ourselves as a block, because together we stand, but divided definitely we will have issues standing.
And talking about Suriname, the participation of Suriname in this active, how does Suriname take part already in the coming events in Grenada?
And that's why we need media houses like yours to help drum up the information out there to the masses in Suriname, because we want massive participation of Surinamese SMEs, Surinamese manufacturers, and those even in the oil and gas sector. Telling you a bit about who we come to Active. We have the entire value chain. This in the government sector, from the policy standpoint, captains of industry, from industrial point perspective, so that people can come in together, form partnership, form alliances, learn best practices among each other, and also create new associations, more like that can be more sustainable and more robust, to enable both sides take advantage of emerging opportunities, either in Suriname or other places. So we want Surinamese to come in. I did talk about the huge market potential that Africa presents. Is what Surinamese manufacturers can take advantage of. Even if on a small scale, what they call access to market is absolutely important, and that's what they can take huge advantage of, to say whatever I have, I can put it out there, and you never know who will be interested in buying. Let's say it's a rum that you produce, is some kind of packaged pepper sauce that you produce, or one example or the other. Somebody could be interested to say, let's do business. And what that will now translate to is that you're no longer just producing for the local market, and you're doing something that now gets acceptance within the region, which is Africa and the Caribbean.
Thank you. Yes. Okay.